recording, then that's absolutely fine. But the recording is about to start. Okay, so as I say, welcome to Monday Natters. If you've not been on a Monday Natters webinar before, Monday Natters is a series of free discussion-based webinars, always held on a Monday night. An opportunity for us to share good practice across the archery community, for you to share your knowledge, your ideas, and to hear from others, and to inspire each other. A good opportunity to get to know one another as well. And obviously through lockdown was really, really important. As I say, it is recorded for those who can't make it live, and for us to refer back to in the future. And hopefully together we're able to strengthen the archery community. So tonight on the call, we've got Aaron Coggan, who's Acting Director of Participation, and myself, Helen Smedley, Regional Development Officer for the Midlands. Aaron, if you're there, do you want to come and say hello to everybody?
Good evening, Helen. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's well. I hope you've been dodging the rain, and fingers crossed the weather gets slightly better next week, because I'm going camping, so I hope it gets much better weather. So yeah, hope everybody's all right. Pleased to join you tonight, and really looking forward to hearing what everybody's got to say later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Aaron. I'm grateful to two guests that we've got also tonight, to David Holland and to Julia Brooks. So we will be hearing from them later on tonight. But as with all Monday Natters, we want to really hear from you as well. So there's lots of time later for you to share your experiences or to raise questions. So heads up that you've got opportunity to share later on. So at the top of the screen, if you haven't used this platform before, there's a speech bubble icon, which is the way that you can access the chat. So have a look for that if you haven't been on before. And you can also raise a hand. That's the icon next to it. And then along to the right, you've got the camera and the microphone symbols for you to switch on and off your camera, or to come on and off microphone. So when we get to the discussion later on, you know how to take part. Cameras are optional. So I will hand over to Aaron at this point, I think. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Just going to start off with a couple of slides that are going to detail a project that we've been involved in around customer experience and some mystery visits. We've been working with Sport England and an organisation to do some mystery visits across sport, and we've been able to get some of those mystery visits to happen at archery clubs. This happened pre-COVID, although some did happen last year across sport, but not in archery. And there's also an opportunity for us as a sport to have some more customer experience mystery visits this year as well. So the ones we're going to talk about tonight for us took part in the big weekend 2019, and there's an opportunity for the big weekend this year to have some mystery visits and also some beginners courses this year as well. So we've been working with Sport England on that, and these are people that are interested in the sport anyway. So it's not as if we're sending people out there who aren't interested in the sport. They actually are interested in the sport, and just detailing back the experience that they have, and how they interact with the club, and what happens through that experience, really, so that we can share that information across the sport, and not just our sport but all sports, and sports can hopefully give a better customer experience. So there's a number of objectives which are detailed on the left there, but really it's looking at 4 main areas, which is around the pre-visit. So how does somebody book onto the visit, whether they get any feedback, whether they ask any questions, the experience itself. So when they attend the club and take part in archery, what kind of experience are they getting? What happens, there's a new section around pandemic management, which didn't obviously take place for the archery customer experiences, but has taken place since. There's a little bit of information there that we'll share with you. And then what happens obviously post-visit as well. So looking at all the best practice across all sports, what people have done, and to look at whether there's any blockages or issues that could be addressed as people get back out there and take part in sport. So looking at each of the 4 areas, the pre-visit, people were asked whether the information was easy to find, whether they could find contact details, location of sessions, etc. And you can see on this chart that the strengths about the pre-visits was that a lot of websites contained a good level of information. So there was contact details, people felt inspired to get started, and in some cases they were able to book and pay with ease. Obviously for us, the big weekend, there was no booking, but where people raised an inquiry, they did get a helpful response to those inquiries, and overall the scores were pretty good. Next slide, Helen, please. There were some learnings, and this may be something that we as a sport can take on board. These scores are for over 100 visits, not just the 3 in archery, but the 3 in archery do obviously add to these scores. And the biggest issue that they found was a lack of safeguarding information that was available on the sports club's websites. So how easy was it to find safeguarding policies and procedures? So when people have gone to look at that was the bit that was missing mainly on their website. So, and I don't think it means having all the information on what to do. I think it might mean that you just want to think about putting the safeguarding officer or child protection officer, whatever you call it in your club, contact details on the website. So if there is a problem, somebody knows who they need to contact. In terms of the other information, most of it was okay, but the visibility and availability of sessions, there was 20 people there that found it difficult to find information, and getting a response from the club was a bit lower scored than some of the others as well. So basically, what are you doing to make sure that it's probably all the people that are on this course, so you probably do it really well, but if you do get a response to inquiry, are you able to get back to that person quite quickly? Are you able to give them everything that they need to know? In terms of the experience itself, the scores were pretty high in this area, and that's to be expected in terms of what you guys do, what you deliver as an experience. It is really good, and across sport that came across in the scores as well. Things like knowledge of instructors and coaches, appropriately managed, rules were explained, equipment was fit for purpose, all those things that were scored pretty highly by the people attending the visits. In terms of the learnings, there was a couple of areas, some of them which might not necessarily relate to our customer experiences, but there was a few incidents where the first point of contact that people had wasn't as helpful and friendly as it could have been. Now, this isn't always somebody from the club. So there was a report back, and Helen, if you just flip to the next slide. This feedback came back from an actual archery mystery customer visit, and the person that was went to the big weekend arrived at reception, and lots of you are on land that's not necessarily yours, so there's perhaps sometimes a reception place or a point of contact that people perhaps will travel to. And when they got there, the roller shutter was down and there was a person sat in the back office, but they had headphones on, so they had to try and get their attention a lot, and eventually they did get that person's attention, and he was able to say, oh yeah, you're here for the archery, it's down there round the corner and you can't miss it. But unfortunately that was their first experience. That had nothing to do with the club, but there was no signage out to say where to go, and there was and the person behind the desk obviously was hard to get hold of. So that might be something that you might want to think about if you're not able to be collecting people or meeting people. Is there some signage that you could put up? Can you make sure that if they have to come to a reception and walk through a building to get to you, is there a way of making that really easy so that people know where they need to go straight away, and they're not discouraged right from the start? Could you flip back one slide, Helen, please? And then the other thing, health screenings might not be too much of a concern for, especially for things like have-a-goes and a big weekend. That might be something that obviously you will pick up more on a beginner's course. But the session timings and the cancellations was scored a little bit lower than some of the others as well. So across all the sports, the sessions starting on time, finishing on time, whether they were cancelled, and you know, people turning up and things had been cancelled, hadn't been notified. So again, that was an area that was scored a little bit lower than some of the rest as well. So again, something to think about in terms of what are you doing if the session is cancelled, if it's overrunning, the last one started late, the next one's starting late. How are you managing that? In terms of the third area, in terms of pandemic management, then this question didn't arise for the archery ones because they were done in 2019, as I said earlier. But obviously this is something that they started to do last year when the first lockdown was eased and people could get back out to sport. So really, look, you know, when people turn up, are they aware of what the COVID measures are now? You know, obviously based on the experiences we've all had over the last year, I'm pretty sure most people will know what the COVID safety measures will be in terms of cleaning hands, etc. But how are you making sure that the participants that turn up on the day are immediately made aware of those? Next slide, Helen, please. And the question that was scored lower than most was around the visibility and availability of COVID information. So is there something that you need to put on your website? Hopefully, fingers crossed, come the 21st of June, this won't be too much of an issue, but for some people it might aid their return to sport or their journey into archery by showing them what we're doing as a sport to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe and we're addressing COVID, and whether they need to bring masks and hand sanitizer, and even things like waterproofs and all things like that. Not necessarily pandemic stuff, but are we making sure that they've got the complete range of information they need before they attend the site? And the final section was around post-visit strengths. So lots and lots of people who have gone to these customer visits, as I said, they are interested in sport. They're not just taking up the space of someone and writing a report and then never going back. They are actually interested. They try to find people who are interested in taking up the sports. So they were sports and activities were inspiring for them, and 3/4 of them would want to take part in the sessions again. But flipping over to the next slide shows that unfortunately the post visit communication and information about future sessions and contact after the sessions is where people started to score much lower. So whilst the end of the session communication was scored quite high, so thank the participants for coming, tell them what the next steps are, information about what to do next, and even contact after that session, that score started to slip a little bit. So that's really something for all sports to think about. How are we encouraging people to come back once they've been to your have a go or taster session, or even a beginner's course? Are we making sure that we've given them the right information? Are we giving them up-to-date information in terms of what is the next step, and is there any follow-up that we're doing in terms of making sure that they've received that information and they know what to do next? Because if you look at the bottom one there, how likely would it be that you would take part in a future session with your chosen activity? Then that jumps up to 77%. So a lot of people are wanting to get involved, but they're being let down a little bit by the contact after the session. And again, this is not aimed at archery sessions. There was only 3 out of the 100 that they've done, but this is a generic summary of all the sessions that have taken part. So this is how we can hopefully, as a sport, rectify some of these and make sure that we're building them into the sessions that we're doing. Next slide, please, Helen. And this is the final slide, in fact, in terms of just the summary. So on the left there, you've got the 5 strengths, coaches, equipment, the sporting knowledge, all excellent, delivered to a high standard, and people are seeing that they're able to book online and do everything they need to do, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. But 3 areas for improvement might be that communication with participants, whether that's pre or definitely post. As it says there on the screen, it's hard to over communicate, but it's definitely easy to under communicate. Displaying any COVID and safeguarding information, making sure that's clear on your website in terms of what we want people to do, and then looking at the processes and training and monitoring to ensure consistent delivery. So again, across all of the 100 mystery shopper visits, these are the strengths and the areas for improvement. And as I said, the actual delivery of the event has been really good. Sometimes it's looking at the pre and the post visit stuff to make sure that members of the public know what they need to do and how they can get involved in the sport afterwards, because if we're going to develop some really good customer experiences, which I know archery does. I've seen big weekends, I've seen beginners courses, I've taken part in big weekends and beginners courses. I know it is a really good customer experience, but we want to make sure that as a sport we're hitting those high figures to make sure people take part and stay in the sport.
That's great. Thank you very much, Aaron. Does anyone have any questions or comments at this point? you can put in the chat, or you can come on microphone if you prefer, or anything you want to comment on those findings. Is anyone frantically looking on their website to see what information you've got on there for new beginners, possibly? It's a good thing to have a look at. So we have a hand. Lewis. Hi, Lewis. Do you want to come on microphone?
Yeah, hiya. Yeah, the number 2 on the area of improvement, certainly COVID-19, but the safeguarding information. We as a club last year did a significant piece of work regarding this and ensuring that all of our policies, procedures, etc. are on the public facing side of our website, where when I was doing the research, an awful lot of clubs, that information was not available. It may well have been on the members side, but not on the public side. Now, I don't know what work AGB is planning on doing with regards to that. I know after speaking with Anne Rook last year, she said there was certainly, I think, going to be some communication going out. But yeah, it's certainly, I get a lot of inquiries with parents, etc., asking about safeguarding.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lewis. And obviously that's a really important area as a parent that you, or as a carer, that you want to know that information is there and put into practice.
Yeah, but I don't know how AGB are going to ensure that all clubs do put the information on their public facing side rather than just their members only portals.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hi, Lewis. How you doing?
Yeah, hi, Aaron.
As I said earlier, I don't think it needs to be, every little bit of it safeguarding information. What you've done there is great, because I think what that will do will give parents, especially, and maybe even adults to some respect, that you are taking safeguarding seriously. You're putting that information out, and it might just be that it's just the contact details of the safeguarding child protection officer, welfare officer, whatever you call it in your club, because if it's a have a go, then fair enough, they're probably going to be with their parents, they're not going to be left them or anything like that, but at the same time, they want to make sure that they're going to a reputable place. And yep. I think we've seen many scandals across sport, and we certainly don't want to project that we are that way inclined, so to speak. We want to make sure that people know that as a sport we're taking that seriously. Just following up with your question in terms of what we're doing, then I think we've said before on Monday Natters that we want all clubs to let us know who their welfare, safeguarding, child protection officer is, whatever your name is of that role, so that we can communicate to all clubs and relevant information. And we also will be promoting the fact that we want this type of information available on the websites as well, where clubs have got websites. And again, I don't think it needs to be a 15, 20, 30 page policy or anything like that. It just needs to be a short statement about how the club handles safeguarding, really. And that might be a link through to Archery GB's website and the policies that we have as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, our document, I think, is probably 6 pages off the top of my head, but it does link back, because obviously we have to make sure we're in line with AGB's own policies. After all, we have to comply with those. But also, our welfare officer put additional information in there to cover our local area. So things like the local authority social services out of hours number, the LADO's number for the local authority designated officer. So additional contact numbers are also in that document as well. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for raising that, Lewis. That's a good question. And safeguarding officers or welfare officers, whoever that person is in your club, if they have not already been in contact with us, we can link them into Learning Curve as well, the online learning forum.
So yeah, ours was already on that one. So yeah, that's great.
Thank you. And Graham, would you like to come on microphone?
Yes, hi. It's just something that Lewis was saying there, and I agree totally. I mean, on our website, we've just got a simple statement on our coaching where it says our coaching team, and I'll just quote it, and it's all our coaches are fully DBS checked and certified by our governing body, Archery GB. We operate a full safeguarding procedure for juniors and the vulnerable with an authorised safety officer on the field. It's simple enough. It gives them, it's just there. And then, we've got the safeguarding officer there to look after them as well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Sometimes that's a really good place to start from. You could think about naming who that person is as well. I know that might mean changing.
Yeah.
You have them. Yeah.
Yeah, she goes on the website this weekend, actually, because we're rehashing it all.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Graham.
The only thing, can I very quickly say that when our welfare officer did the time to listen training, it was recommended in that training that their telephone number was not provided. So therefore, we did initially put ours out with a phone number on it. That's subsequently been changed to a dedicated email address, so that all contact is done via email, and then obviously the welfare officer will follow that up and provide a number should that be necessary.
So that's more traceable. Was that, Lewis?
I don't know. I mean, I think the time to listen training was suggesting that because of them being volunteers, you shouldn't be putting out your private mobile number on such a document. And therefore, as I said, we have a dedicated welfare email address in our club, and also a separate dedicated deputy welfare officer's email address. So yeah, it was just interesting because a lot of people would think, oh, we'll put a phone number, put the person's mobile number in there, but actually the time to listen training suggested or recommended that they did not do that.
Thank you very much.
What about Helen? What about putting a club number there that we have? We have a club number as well, so people can contact that as well without having to have a personal number. Yeah, because I've stopped the coaches from putting their personal numbers on rather than have a separate number, because then it just keeps it safe and in line with the GDPR rulings too.
Yeah, and each club probably has a slightly different way of doing it, and that's for you to kind of work out your best way of doing that. But to try and protect people's kind of private numbers is sensible. Yeah, so if you've got a club number, then that seems sensible to me. Some clubs wouldn't have that, so there'll be different ways of doing that. Yeah, that sounds fine. And Mandy as well. Mandy, do you want to come on the microphone?
Well, actually, Lewis has just answered my question for me, because I was going to say we have actually unknowingly put our safeguarding officer's own personal number on our website, and she's asked for it to be removed, which is absolutely fair enough. And I was just about to ask, do we have to have their number on? But obviously Lewis has answered my question, because actually it's not fair that their number is on that list, even though my number's the head for the club, so anyone can phone me anyway, but that's my choice. So Lewis, thank you for that, because I do agree it's not right that their own personal number is actually out there for every Tom, Dick and Harry to actually see. So that's fine, thank you.
Yeah, but there should though, Mandy, be a way for an individual still to contact your welfare officers. So obviously a dedicated email address. And in fact, ours does not have the crystalpalacebowman.org.uk domain name. Ours is a Outlook. It's a completely separate, isolated email address that only our welfare officer has access to, because obviously the nature of what potentially, we pray to God it never is, but potentially what could end up in there, it is for the welfare officer's eyes.
Yeah, I will get on to do that now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, so thank you for that, Aaron, that section. And by all means, if you do have a question, you can pop that in the chat. We'll come back to it later on about any of the feedback there that we've heard. We're going to move on now to welcome David. So David, would you like to join us and we can go through your feedback from your club, from Bowman of Warfield? Yep.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome, David.
Thanks, Helen. All right, we didn't actually run a big weekend in 2019 because of clashes of other dates, which took a lot of people away. So these notes are from the last big one that we did in 2018. And basically, looking at it, the field is our own, so we don't need to share it or anything. But planning for the club's big weekend started actually back in March, literally when the dates were announced. A team of 6 of us from the club meeting sort of every few weeks, each with a specific task, looking at coaches and instructors, admin, booking in via Eventbrite, refreshments, barbecues, parking, of course, field plan, and you can see some of that from the current photo, club information and tombola. Many of you will have heard the saying, fail to plan, plan to fail. A big weekend with 240 people coming, it's a good potential to fail. So we put a lot of effort into the planning, including the actual layout of the field, such that you actually came in to the field in a sort of route. The first task was to create a plan of the field and then to position the key stations, the gazebos, and you can see 3 of them there. Car parking, we were going to use the parking space of our neighbour's Binfield Football Club, which is to the right-hand side, just in front of the white car. Next up was how we were going to actually get the people interested and how could we actually control the flow of people coming into the club. We decided to do this via Eventbrite by only having so many tickets available per time slot, the time slots being 60 minutes. And we could take up to 40 people per slot. A small charge was made so that hopefully it would ensure that they would turn up, because the previous year when we hadn't done this, we had an awful lot of, yes, we're going to come, yes, we're going to come. And when it actually came to the hour, no, they didn't turn up, or they would come up 2 hours later when everyone in that time slot had arrived as well. So we decided, right, Eventbrite, time slot, ticket. If you missed it, that was at our discretion as to how we could actually feed you in. We were putting in the commitment, why shouldn't they? With 6 slots available, that meant a total of 240 people potentially. And with a lunch break planned in also for the coaches and the instructors being staggered, so that we got sort of, I think it was 30 to 40 minutes break over within a 2-hour period on that, because we've got 12 targets and we had something like 15 coaches and AGB instructors available, together with a couple of competent club members that we'd actually trained up as to what we were doing. Once all this started to slot into place, then the other bits were put into place. The sequence was going to be as follows. Arrive at the car park to the registration tent or gazebo, and then on to the safety talk and issued with your protective gear. From there, onto the shooting line for action. You get to shoot for about 45 minutes. And then once that is over, you'd exit to the left, returning your safety equipment onto a table where it will be checked out. And then you were free to look at the club and archery information. We've got longbows, recurves, compounds, information about our club and a couple of other local clubs as well who were helping us out with coaches. There's the refreshments where you could get beef burgers, hot dogs, ice creams, cold drinks, some cakes as well. We had a tombola, try to raise a little bit of extra money, and then you could return to the car park on your departure. Now, it's all very well having a big event like this, but you need equipment. And it's the equipment area that quite often you actually get sort of let down on, or you find that you haven't actually got enough of it. I'm involved in running a scout camp in the area, so I was able to sort of block out any bookings at Earlywood and just say, right, I'm going to take this 6, that 6, and that 6 jelly bows and snakes, and yeah, we use them. In the booking on Eventbrite, we had actually asked for some idea as to whether the people were left-handed or right-handed. It gives us a brief idea on the number of bows that we needed, particularly the small ones like the snakes and the jelly bows are ambidextrous. But it's when you're using the bigger Rolands and takedowns that you then need individual bows. So using the club's teaching bows plus a selection of the jelly bows and snake bows from the local scout camp, we had suffice. Arrows, now that was another story. The arrows that we very often get are leftovers from someone who has given up archery, regretfully left for another life, which has unfortunately been a couple of members this year, together with donations from other people and that. So you tend to get correct spines, but not always the length that you want, especially with juniors. So we're sort of scrounging around for getting enough long enough junior arrows without having all the short ones. We worked on where we could, one size fits all. So rather than trying to fit bits and pieces around, we basically went for the longest arrows that we could find, because there's no need to actually match arrows to draw, length and poundage. The important fit is the length long enough for the person shooting it? And if you actually stand back and look, and that's how we run the scout camp archery sessions, is we don't have 25 different lengths of arrows for cubs or beavers all the way through to 18-year-old explorers and networks. We just have 2, maybe 3 different lengths, so of 28-inch, 30-inch and uncut neos. It's rare that we actually have someone that has a draw longer than one of those, but it is possible. Also key with the arrows was serviceability. So we had a maintenance team who helped collect the arrows that had missed the targets afterwards and check that they were all good and fit. And the instructors and coaches actually collected them from the targets. Then any that were found to be missing with fletchings, so one of the maintenance team had 2 or 3 tubes of glue and spare fletchers, and by the time that the party had actually left, we'd actually got all the fletchings actually glued back on and all ready to go on to the next lot. 2018 was a long, hot day for us. Hard work, and we got 40 new club members from it. 2019, we didn't run a big weekend as several local clubs had decided to run their own big weekends. And there was also a lot of competitions, including national rounds happening. So many of our key supporters were unavailable. So when you do go looking to put on something like this, just remember there are other events which might steal some of your key team members. From a coach's perspective, it was a heavy workload, as not only did we spend all day instructing, but then if we actually generated, I think it was something like 60 inquiries for signing up for beginner courses. So we ended up with 2 further beginners courses, literally back to back after this, which was another sort of 6 weeks, constant weekends doing this. So it can be quite a heavy workload if you have a very successful event. I'll just make one quick note is we've got within the club quite a few scout leaders who have archery GB instructors. Whilst these people cannot normally help with coaching beginners courses, they are the best trained people to actually help on have-a-goes, because that is what the qualification is all about. The running of have-a-goes at fairs, camps, what have you. So rather than having to train your club members up to it, Archery GB instructors are actually already trained for you. Okay, Helen.
Thank you, David. Thank you for preparing your thoughts on what made it really effective. And as you said, you had a huge number of guests through that day, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it's really good to hear that feedback. And obviously, even from the pictures, but also from your information you've just shared, it's clear that lots of planning had gone into it, and that's really key. And that's the stage that we're at the moment. You know, we're about 6 weeks away now, so it's definitely a good time to be planning away. How did your club kind of get people enthused in helping out on the day? Were there any kind of tips that you can share there?
We're all pretty good collective anyway, and when you sort of say, well, we've got a work weekend coming up, who's there, and we can easily get 20 people, no problem. So it was just a case of a few particular people. Myself and John Walton looked after the coaching side on that. Tracy Devlin. This is the same Tracy Devlin, by the way, that's on one of the Hitachi 800s. If you ever see it on the West Coast main line, the local hero. But she sort of kept us in in control of what our thoughts were and that. But yeah, that's together really with the usual free lunch, free coffee, yeah. Free tea.
Yeah, and they're really good buzz by the looks of things. So one of the photos that you've shared for tonight, which I'm really grateful for, looks like a volunteer briefing. I'll just go back. Is that? Would you say that's right, David? Are they the volunteer group there? So a mixture of
the club member
ages.
crew.
Yeah, so really good there to see a mixture of abilities, ages, genders. You know, people probably that are quite new members. People that have been there for a long time, coaches, non-coaches, instructors, you mentioned, a whole mixture. Would that be true?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's really good, isn't it? And then we've got a question come into the chat here from Neil. Thank you, Neil. And what advertising did you do for your event?
We put it on local radio, local papers, Get Reading, the online news, together with advertising it in the local community halls. And yeah, we literally started that from beginning of April.
And on the day then, were you able to invite people to a beginner's course on the day, a date there and then, come back on this date?
Yes. Yeah, we ended up actually running 2 beginners courses.
Yeah. But they planning for those is part of planning a big weekend event, isn't it? So that you've got.
Yeah, because you will definitely get people saying, how can I take up the sport? You need to do a beginner's course. When are you next doing one? 2 weeks time. Oh. And we're doing a 10% discount off the normal price today if you care to sign up.
If I remember right, because I have visited a big weekend with you, which was great, there were people actually designated to that job, follow-up. So they were speaking to people after they'd had their go.
Yes.
So there were people dedicated for beforehand, teaching on the line, and then afterwards as well.
Yeah, I was one of the ones wearing the red polo shirts.
Yeah.
So right. Literally started at 9 o'clock in the morning and finished at 5 o'clock in the evening, with about half an hour break for lunch.
That's brilliant. It's really really inspiring to hear about what you did and to see the pictures, David. Obviously, some events won't be that big. Some events may not be that long, and that's fine. Big weekends come in all shapes and sizes, and it depends on your capacity as a club, very much. But we might be able to join with a local club down the road if you feel that neither one of you is able to put it on yourself. There's a lot of creativity around big weekends, and I encourage you have a think about that as a club. And you've also got the option, if you feel you don't have enough volunteers, to let us know, and we may be able to match you with people that want to volunteer. So there's another option for you there.
Yeah, we paired up with Burley and I think Harlequins in Berkshire as well, and because we've got quite a few associate members who are members of that club, are their prime one, so we sort of did a little bit of arm twisting and said, look, you come and help us, and don't forget to bring your display about your own club.
Great. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we got plenty of helpers.
Fantastic. That's really good to hear back. Thank you for preparing your feedback for us tonight, David. That's really lovely. Thanks.
No problem. And Clive Mitchell, who took all these photos, says, yes, you're able to use them.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really good.
David, it's Aaron. Thank you so much for going through that. It's really good to see. Interesting about your comment around whether to charge or not and things like that. Obviously, for the big weekend, we tried to encourage people to do it for free for the participants. But I think you raise a valid point in terms of, you know, sometimes free is, oh, I'll go if it's nice and sunny, but I won't go if, you know, because I haven't paid. So I don't, you know, if something comes up, I won't come out, you know, I won't go.
Yeah. Or our biggest problem the previous year was people that said, oh, yes, we'll come for 10 o'clock or we'll come for 11 o'clock. And they all piled in together at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Together with the ones at 2 o'clock and the ones from 1 o'clock that were late.
Yeah.
So rather than sort of having 40 sort of just trickling through, no rush, nice leisurely event, you sort of end up with sort of half the coaches actually not doing anything in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we've got so many people, we just can't process them.
Yeah.
So we said, right, I think we were only charging something like $5 a head. But it did actually give us control of the numbers through the process.
Yeah. And over the past year as well, when we've all had to book on stuff to make sure we're going or you know, and things like that, you know, I wonder whether people will be more inclined to, you know, just to go, right, okay, I need to book, I'll book for 2 o'clock and therefore I'll make sure I'll turn up at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And part of the sign up this year, which has already been open a little bit now, is that question: do you need to book to go to your event? So if you'd like bookings to be able to manage it better, then please just put on there that they need to book. Obviously, there will need to be somebody responding to an email or whichever way you've put on your information, your sign up information, for them to book. But yeah, you've got that option for this year, and it also might just give people that assurance in terms of COVID that they can be, you know, booked in safely, and you're monitoring the capacity of your event.
Yeah,
it's really good. Thank you, David.
No problem.
Yeah, if there's any other questions for David, I'm sure if you pop them in the chat, we can cover those later on as well. But we also have another guest. Julia is on the call this evening from Six Towns Company of Archers near Stoke-on-Trent. So Julia, if you can hear us, welcome to the webinar. And I've got a few photos from your big weekend event as well. And I think you've got some.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've managed to do every weekend every big weekend that's been done so far, and they've all been really, really successful. Like David was saying, we advertise everywhere. We're on local radio, in the local papers, on the BBC Sport Active website, but we're also quite well known for doing a lot of the have-a-goes and taster sessions around the area anyway. So we do them at sports fairs, at STEAM fairs, carnivals, at schools, into school, as the kids are moving up from junior to high school, we do them there. So it's quite a common occurrence, but yeah, you have to have it planned out because otherwise it doesn't work. We don't have people booking in. We literally just have it as an open, come along and have a go. We've not yet ever had a load of people queuing up and waiting. We've taken loads of beginners courses through it. We've taken lots of people who've joined the club, both from other clubs and who have returned to archery through it because they've seen it and gone, yeah, I'll come back and have a go. We don't split it between ages or disabilities. And we also have taster sessions, have a goes when we can, and beginners courses running every Saturday anyway, so that people don't have to wait for their lessons or their chance to come and have a go.
That's great, thanks, Julia. And how about in your club? How do you find the response when you go out to the club asking for people to get involved?
9 times out of 10, everybody will just do it. They'll all get involved. They'll all the juniors want to get involved, all the adults want to get involved. We also allow the archers to carry on shooting during the same time as well, so they can come up for the day, bring the families. They can shoot at one end or on one of the fields. We're quite lucky. We've got 4 different fields that can be utilised. And when they finish shooting for a bit, they'll come and take over from some of the coaches. We've got loads of volunteers who will come and do it. We've even incorporated the local scout group to come and do it for us before, where they've come and given out information for us and just pointed people in the right general direction, so that all the hands-on resources were on the fields where we needed them. We've always got flyers available, so people take the flyers away. They take business cards away with them. We had somebody do a meet and greet in one of the gazebos, and within 24 hours, every single person who'd left an email address had been contacted about their experience and did they want to come back. We do raffle prizes where it's every time, if you fill in your form with your contact details in, you have a chance of winning a beginner's course for a family of 4. It encourages people to give us the information. Not always, even though you're offering the courses free of charge to them, you don't always get them to take it up. They'll take the gift voucher. Still, sometimes they don't come back, but most of the times they do. You know, we're quite a big club. We've got a good active membership, and we're lucky. You know, the people do turn up and they do come and have a go, and the members will stand there and they will help out, even if it's the wives, the girlfriends, the partners, where they'll come up with the refreshments. There's usually that much cake in the cake hut that there's enough to bribe all the coaches with anyway.
Oh, Helen, you're on mute.
You're on mute
Yes.
then, Helen. Sorry.
It's all right. No, I was just saying, if you do get a queue of people, if there are a variety of different things that they can do whilst they're at your event, that's the key in trying to keep people a bit longer, get to know them a bit more, would you say?
Yeah, we've had face painting, we've had the people dishing out the stickers and the pens and the wristbands that you guys have sent to us. People distributing information about the club. There's one of the coaches will escort a couple of the people over to go and view what for use of a better word, the proper archers are doing, so that they can see what's going on over there.
That's great. Do you have a way of recognising your volunteers that have helped out on the day?
Because of all the funds that come in through the have-a-goes, we don't charge for Big Archery Weekend, but because of the funds that come through from the carnivals and the steam fairs, we haven't had to put club fees up for 5 years.
Wow.
So every member is still paying the same fee as what they were paying 5 years ago. And everybody appreciates that, because it's the fact that we can afford to do that. We can buy new targets, new bows, and people appreciate that the more footfall we've got coming through the club, it's less on their pockets. And that's quite a good incentive for them, to be honest.
That's a really interesting point as well. Yeah. I see that David has his hand up, and it might be a question for you, Julia. So if I just keep you on the line there.
Yeah,
David,
sure.
do you want to come in at that point?
Yeah, what I was going to suggest was something that we actually did, raising funds at Bracknell Fair 2 years ago, where we were just running have a go for whoever wanted to turn up. And one of the people that helps with us makes his own longbows, and Keith had actually brought with him 3 longbows of only sort of 20 to 25 pound. And we said, well, what was it, £3 for 6 arrows on a recurve, or you can have a £5 to have a go with a longbow. Boy, the queue. Everyone wanted to go on the longbow. So think about sometimes a unique selling point.
Yes. Yeah, and each event is going to be different, whether you're going out, like Julia said, to a steam fair or a school fete or something, or whether you're running it at your own club. If your club is difficult to find, you might feel, actually, we'll run an event, but it won't be at our club venue. We'll find somewhere that wants to work with us, where you've got a footfall ready-made for you. So yeah, the unique selling point is really a good point to make there, David. Thank you for that. And
we actually made banners to hang outside the barriers outside the school, because we're on a main road, and it was quite interesting that they can see us on the field. The field that we use for these events, you can see from the main road, but hanging the banners out on the school railings brought people in. We also sent out invites to every school within a 10-mile radius of where we are, and I emailed all the head teachers, and they advertised it at their schools and put it on the school newsletters for a couple of weeks beforehand as well. We did it the same with scout groups. We put flyers through people's doors, all through local shops, anywhere you could think of. All the kids or anybody else who was going anywhere, they took flyers with them and advertised it wherever they were going. They'd all be involved in different groups. So we emailed the brownies, the guides.
Yeah, it takes a bit of a team to hit all those community groups in preparation, Julia. Are there quite a number of you that took some of those each, or?
No, there was 2 of us.
2 of you.
And it was just a mass evening of just sending out mass printing sessions.
That's good though.
Because we leave them quite generic, they're still there now, ready to go out the next time round. So when we take them to the next taster session, they're sitting on the table ready to be handed out.
Right.
And it's surprising how far people will actually travel to come to a club.
Yeah, that's really good. And this year we've got the big week. If people are looking to get involved in the big weekend, there is also the big week. So if you have a link with a local school and you wanted to do something in the school or with a uniformed organisation or with the Scouts or a community group in the big week, you've got that option as well this year to try and you could always invite them back to another event at the weekend if you're able to do 2 events or 2 small events, whatever your capacity is. Aaron, did you want to come in at that point?
Well, I was just thinking about what people had said then in terms of having different things available for people to see and eat. I can confirm the cakes at 6 Towns are very good. I've been offered cakes there before. I wonder whether, Julia, your wellies attract people in, those pink wellies. That might.
They've done some years, those pink wellies have. They're rather black now, actually, but they're covered in mud, but they still come out every week.
And yeah, just in terms of running different things, I remember when I was at Norton Archers up in the northeast, they had one of their visually impaired archers shooting on the big weekend day. So that obviously, and he was able to speak to people and show them how he shoots, and to show that the sport really is accessible to all. So, and I know that Julia and the team there at Six Towns have welcomed lots of different people in with lots of different abilities, done a fantastic job at that club. So nice photos of the on target flag, so we'll send you a check for that, Julia.
I meant to say to you as well, one of the big archery weekends, we managed to get the local Volvo group to bring their cars down when you had the sponsorship. So we had the cars for them to go and have a look around as well.
That's great, isn't it? Working in partnership with other local groups is a really good way to go. And then maybe your local car dealer or another partnership that you'd never normally have thought of. So yeah, put the word out there. Julia, thank you very much for your feedback on those events. That's really great. And likewise, if there's other questions that Julia might be able to help with, then pop them in the chat there. And just a point as well on registrations this year. If you are thinking about getting involved in the big week or the big weekend, we'd like to help with how you kind of register your participants on the day, but we also really would like accurate data from your participants. So we really want to know how many visitors you've had, and we have therefore devised an online registration form that you'll be able to ask people to use a QR code to take them to. So it's really quick and really simple, but just a really effective way of registering them there and then, which obviously in the last year, probably most people have become accustomed to booking in, and most of us using QR codes. If they're not able to do it, then on behalf of the visitor, you could do it. Your volunteer or the person doing registration for your club could use the QR code either on the field or later that night at home if signal is a problem. So we're hopefully going to take some of the headache of registering visitors off your hands this year, and we'll still be able to feed that information back to you so that you know exactly how many people you had at your event as well. So just to mention that is coming in this year for big weekend and big week events. And we have a hand up, so just going to cut to Graham. Graham, would you like to come on microphone?
Yeah, I was just actually, when you were talking about registration, I was going to actually say, could we do something like we did with the I Am Team GB day? Now, we didn't do it last year. I don't think we did an big weekend, to be quite honest, that worked well. But I got involved with the I Am Team GB day, and just a couple of things. It's very similar in format. I got hold of the local Toyota group, because obviously they're tied in with the Olympics, but they brought all their cars down. I also brought in their disabled side, so they brought a mobility vehicle in as well. So there was all that lot involved. But also I got hold of the local radio station, who do a Cash for Kids charity fundraiser. So not only did we get the people coming in from the bookings, but also walk-ins, and from people that turned around and said, oh, well, we heard you on the radio station this morning, so we decided to come along. Also, massive mega prizes that I managed to arrange. So we had a massive raffle, and it raised funds, not just for the club, but actually for the Cash for Kids Foundation. We raised something, I think it was something like about £400 that day for Cash for Kids, just on a pound raffle. But some of the prizes were phenomenal. Like I think we've gone through this. Eddie will know. I've still got to give him a prize yet. A weekend in the Hilton Hotel in Bournemouth. Trip over to the Isle of Wight. Big prizes bring a lot of people in. So it's just a thought.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Graham. Yeah, it's good. And there's so many different sort of unique spins that you can put on your events. It can be evenings, it could be this week during the week, could be at the weekend, could be with prizes. So many different partners that you can work with. it's great to have that unique flavour to your event, depending on what partnerships you've got, and to make it work for you. Yeah, absolutely. Julia, thank you very much for your feedback. Thank you, Graham, for your feedback there as well, and for putting your thoughts together. That's really good. Just to sum up then on the next slide, just some thoughts that most of which we've already touched on tonight, but some feedback even recently from people that have been along to clubs, either for a taster session or even for a beginner's course, is that a little bit of planning in advance really goes a long way, like we've talked about tonight. So what is it that people will do next after that particular visit to your club? If you can tell them about that when they come, then that will just add that sort of seamless flow to their archery journey. So can you plan in advance what they can move on to? Or if you've got another taster session that you want to invite them back to, then it might be that, because it depends what kind of event you're planning. As much as possible, can you prepare people in advance for what to expect? And a few of you were on a club development webinar just recently, where the tutor was really interested in having a go at archery. And some of you will know the discussion that I'm referring to. But she actually asked, well, what is it that I can expect? So this is someone with years of experience working in sports and really interested in archery, but couldn't really visualize what she would be doing if she were to come to try archery. And it just struck me, here's somebody that really wants to try archery, so they've already got that gone over that hurdle, and she doesn't really know what to expect. So as much information as you can give is helpful, even if you feel like you're over communicating. There's no such thing. How long will the session last? What facilities have you got there? Are there toilets there? Is there somewhere to get a drink? Is there somewhere that you can park for free, or do they have to pay? Or, you know, as much information as possible. What should they wear? Do they need pink wellies like Julia? What kind of ground would they be on? How accessible is it going to be for people? What not to wear? Do they need to tie their hair back? Therefore, do they need to bring a hairband? What should they bring with them or not bring with them? All these sorts of things. Do they need to bring a mask at the moment? Do they need to register at reception first or not? Do they come straight to you? Really important information. Where to park, and someone there to greet them when they're parking would be brilliant if you can make that happen. I appreciate that's not always easy. And this year on the big weekend sign up registration form, we've added in the What 3 Words app, and I know some of you are really familiar with that already. If you've not come across that, 3 words, a bit like a grid reference, can really pinpoint an exact location. We know that fields don't always have postcodes, but there's always a What 3 Words reference to every point in the country. So you can always find out your club's location on What 3 Words and let us know that, so that we can give that to people interested and they can really know where to find you. Would it be possible to ask someone to drive the route the week before, so that you can really check if anything needs to be signed along the way, making it really clear where you are? Do you give out directions? Do you give out an accurate postcode or What 3 Words for a sat nav to use? How will they know where to park, or what kind of configuration to park in? Are there certain spaces reserved for archers and others, or certain spaces for other sports? You know, make sure that they're not parking in your overshoot area, things as simple as that. But if you've never been before, you might not know. And as soon as they arrive, who could be the best people to welcome them and put them at ease? There might be people really nervous. There might be people accompanying someone to have a go, but if you chat to them, they might have a go themselves. And I know that you're really good at welcoming, and the events I've been to, there's been a really lovely welcome. If everyone is shooting, it's not always very welcoming to be able to walk over and ask if they can have a go. So just to have someone on the lookout for new faces all the time would be really good. And we've mentioned it before people leave, are they clear on what their next steps are, how to contact you, and how you're going to follow up after the day? Greg, thank you for the what 3 words there of energy, face, crab. I don't know if that's particularly relevant for your club, but that's a really great one, sticks in the mind.
Helen, I think it's important that to say that obviously me and you sit in our desks and we do lots of advice and guidance and Monday natters and stuff like that, and people go, oh, okay, yeah, we do that. Our driving instructions are really clear. We know exactly where. But everything you've just gone through, me and you have been given that feedback in the last week from someone that we know that's been to a beginner's course and was told to go down the road 400 meters or 4 miles or whatever the direction was, but it wasn't, and they ended up in somewhere completely different, didn't they? So so your suggestions about looking at the route and making sure that people know, making sure that it's the first right, not the second right, and things like that. I think it's good advice, and always good to just refresh things every now and again.
Absolutely, and I've spent hours driving around in total looking for events that were really quite hard to find, and I knew that you were there somewhere. And some actually on one occasion I attended an event to find that it had been cancelled as well, which was really sad. Obviously things happen and you can't avoid that sometimes, but if you do have to cancel, if at all possible, if you can let us know, we will stop advertising your particular event, or even if it's possible for someone to go down and put a sign up saying, sorry, we've had to cancel, this is when we'll be back, or this is how to contact us, then that would be helpful too. It's just trying to think about those things as much as possible, because I know it might not feel like many people will see the national publicity and just turn up, but you never know who's going to come. And as we've heard from Julia and David as well, they've had lots of people just turn up and see the signs and turn up. So okay, and Aaron, were you going to talk to us a little bit about our open data?
Sure. Everybody's giving us their 3 words for their clubs now, so some really interesting ones coming through. So that's good that people are using it. So just to kind of finish off the slides, then we wanted to reinforce the messages around registering events and something called open data as well. So a couple of years ago we asked clubs to register their have-a-goes, taster sessions, beginners courses, etc. within the membership portal. Just to refresh your memories around that, and why we're linking it to open data as well. So in terms of booking sporting events to take part in, it is twice as easy to book a holiday online than it is to try and book an activity. I think we all know nowadays you can sit on your sofa with your phone or your tablet, and you can book a pizza, you can book a holiday to some far off place, at the minute only in your dreams, but that will come back shortly. But trying to book an experience, and in our case an archery experience online, is sometimes quite difficult. So we want people to register events in the membership portal within Sport 80, and when you do that, there's an option to promote it further as well. So and that's called the open data bit. So it's about finding, booking and paying for activities. We're working with Sport 80, who is the membership portal provider, to release a new module later this year that will help people book and pay for events. Now, many of you are already using such systems to do that anyway, so that's fine. But if you aren't, there'll be an option for you to be able to do that, and people will be able to book onto those sessions as soon as they find them. We are launching a new website in a couple of weeks' time, that is dedicated towards beginners. So the Archery GB website is something that we know we need to have a look at and refresh, and that will be later on in the year. But there will be a brand new microsite, as we're calling it, that will be attracting new people that into the sport. So there's a real good opportunity for all the clubs to register their events, get them in there, and those that want to promote them further, you just basically tick a box and then add any more additional add additional information such as start times, finish times, and price and things like that, and that will feed the map and the finder, and then people will be able to find their nearest beginners course or have a go or taster session to them. Next slide, Helen, please. And this is what it looks like. So it asks you what event so it's called the Have a Go and Course registration. So when you log on as your club, you'll be able to see that on the left hand side. And there's just it takes probably about 3 or 4 minutes just to add in where the event is taking place, which event you're doing, whether that's a taster session, a beginner's course, demonstration, and others as well. So you can advertise boost archery if you want people to book on. Whether you've done, obviously we want to make sure you've done the risk assessment, how many people you are likely to attend, and then some accessible information as well. So how would disabled people be able to get there? Is it very accessible, not very accessible, etc.? And who can you cater for as well, in terms of whether people have got physical or hearing impairments, visual impairments, etc. So we want to try and make all of this data available to clubs, so that to members. So sorry, we want to make this information available to the general public so they can find an easy way of getting involved in the sport. Sorry, I got my words wrapped around my tongue then.
No, that's great. Thanks, Aaron. That's really good. And obviously there is a box there saying big weekend. If you sign up to the big weekend, if you could pop your big weekends on the portal as well, then that would be really helpful. If you forget them, we can put them on there. But yeah, that's the big weekend registration is separate from on the portal because we asked for a fair bit of extra information. But it shouldn't take very long, so it's a very quick process to go through. So that's nearly the end of the content that we've got provided for tonight. But I've got a couple of extra things that we're going to probably ask everyone to have a go at next. But first of all, it's just to kind of think. I know that your clubs will be really busy thinking about your taster sessions and beginners courses, and hopefully after the 21st of June, have a goes as well. But if at all possible for you to join in with the big week and the big weekend, then that would be ideal. So we've just popped up the dates there so that you can see how the big week runs into the big weekend this year. Except in Northern Ireland, actually, the big weekend will be between the 2nd and the 4th of July. But otherwise, for the rest of the country, it will be on the weekend will be the 9th to the 11th of July, and the registration page is open. I can pop the link in the chat, but you've probably all had that, or you've had that already on the sign up in email, and it's on the website and in every e-zine that's going to be coming your way. So, but if you do need that, then just let us know, and keep us updated if any of the details do change, so that we can keep your advertised information as accurate as possible for the public. We do have a lot of people contact Archery GB about big weekends, so do make sure that we've got all your details up to date. And it's interesting, a couple of people were putting in the chat earlier on about their thoughts and their plans for this summer. If anyone wants to come on and sort of talk a bit more about possible problems that they might have, or reasons why they're not able to run a big weekend, if there's anything we can talk through together, if there's any support we can offer you, then feel free to do that now. I did notice a couple of people saying that there perhaps are things that are stopping you run a big weekend. We hope that there's a lot of dates there to choose from. And I was talking to a club the other day, and they said there's no way we can run an event for 5 days. And please don't feel like that's what we're asking you to do. So it could just be that you can do one event on one day for 2 hours. It could be that you want to run a club social and encourage your members to all come along to a social. And you might say, if you can bring a friend who wants to have a try, that's really welcome as well. But you might want to just run a social event, that's fine as well. You can register your big weekend that way. There is no one size fits all, but what we do want is all joining together on those particular dates as a real celebration of archery, so that the general public can see that archery is not a secretive community. There are archery clubs everywhere around the country, so it'd be really great to be able to see little dots all over the map when we get you all registered. Is there anyone that did want to raise any queries or problems that your club is facing for this year, or any thoughts? So Bob's just raised a question there. How can we arrange for Archery GB to list our club for when people search? So Bob, feel free to come on microphone if you prefer. If you're talking about the big weekend, if you register your big weekend online through in the corner of the screen at the minute, you see just the top of the registration page there. If you register that with us, we will be promoting all the events. And also, as Aaron mentioned a minute ago, when you register your events on the portal, the last part of registering it gives you the option of opting into the open data, so we can advertise it to the public that way as well. So it needn't be a big weekend. You can still ask us to advertise it for you. But yeah, Bob, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, sorry, I cut myself off. Yeah, I've looked a couple of times on the AGB website for when people look up to find what clubs are available. For the past 3 years, we've not been listed as a club.
Is that on the club finder, do you mean, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay, so each club has the option of opting out on the club finder, but usually you'll find that you're opted in. You should show on the club finder.
Yeah, it's not been showing.
Okay, we can look into that.
Sorry, Bob, what's your club? Sorry?
Clwydian Bowman.
Right. Helen, you keep talking and I'll see if I can investigate now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So when you register a range, and also in the details for your club, there is a question in there whether you want to show on the club finder. So that's something that you can have a look at, and that's something that Aaron will be checking for you now. As long as your address postcode matches the kind of official Royal Mail postcodes, well, then it should show on our club finder. So we can check that for you and make sure that pops up for you. That's not showing.
Okay, that might be a problem because our address is with the village hall rather than an individual postcode.
Okay,
so
that
might not link. Yeah,
that should be fine as long as we can point to a location that's actually officially recognised, even if it is, you know, a few hundred metres out. It will show on the map for you, and then people can get in contact with you for a more exact explanation of where to come to find you, or go to your website, etc.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Yeah, but Bob, you definitely are showing.
Oh, right. Every time I've looked in the past 3 years, it's not been showing.
Okay. I've used the postcode for your club, and it came up. So it come up with because all the individual ranges are listed, so they've all come up.
I think what it is, when you search for archery clubs in North Wales, it doesn't come up on that, or didn't come up on that.
Oh right, okay. So yeah, you either have to put in a postcode, or you can. I think you can put in the name of the town. So if I put in Real, it comes up as well.
It comes up as Gronant, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you come up next.
Oh, do we? Right, okay. That's changed then. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
for that, Aaron.
I've just clicked on it. Oh, it doesn't take you through to the website. So there's a problem with the website.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, we're sorting that.
Right. Okay.
Thank you very much for that.
All right.
Thanks, Bob. And that's a really good point. If you all want to just double check your clubs are showing accurately on the Club Finder, that would be great. And that your details are shown correctly on there. And then also, like we mentioned earlier on, thinking about your website, might be good to try and get someone who's never done archery and doesn't know anything about your club to have a look at your website for you. See what their first impressions are, what information they can find out on there. If you didn't catch it, we did have a webinar earlier in the year that we recorded, so it's available now to listen back to on the Archery GB YouTube channel with all the other webinars that we've recorded recently. And it was about your website and social media. So it might be you that oversees that, or someone else in your club that you might want to have a listen back to. The title of the webinar is Spring Cleaning Your Website. As I say, it does cover social media as well, and I would very strongly recommend that to you before the summer season kicks in. There are lots of really good hints and tips there, and lots of you were part of that and gave your hints and tips as well to making sure that your online presence is really, really efficient. And we've got a hand, so I'll just bring you in now if you've got your hand up. Neil Sims, would you like to come on?
Hi there. Yeah, Neil Sims from Scarborough Archers. Just want to ask, is it possible for more than one person to have the admin role in the Sport 80 portal, or is it only for the club secretary?
No, that's right. Up to 3 people can have the same access for a club, or if you are part of a county, the same. Any organisation, yeah, 3 people can have that access.
Cool.
If you drop on
how do you add more people to it then?
Yeah, if you've got the access at the moment, if you can authorise our membership team to add 1 or 2 extra people up to your maximum of 3, we can do that for you very quickly. Yeah, and that really helps to share the workload.
Okay, thank you. I'll get that sorted out.
Thanks, Neil. And Graham, would you like to come off mute, Graham?
Did I have my hand up? I don't think I did.
Oh, it's showing me. Okay, no problem. It's showing me that it was right.
I was a bit shocked then. I was like, what have I done?
No problem at all.
It's habit, Graham. That's all it is. It's habit.
Oh, shut up, Benjamin.
Mandy, you've got your hand raised.
I have, yes. I put a comment in the chat because it's really interesting, again, from my perspective, listening to Julia and the other chap about their experience with big weekends, and they've got like 200 plus members and this, that and the other, and obviously they've got a pool of volunteers. But I'd quite like to hear from smaller clubs that have only got 20 and 30 members of how they are doing things like the big weekend and, you know, how it goes, because obviously we don't have the pool of volunteers to be able to get in to do such things. As much as in my head I would love to do it, we just don't have the people that are willing or able to actually help. I'm lucky if I can get 3 people to help. Now, I know that people are going to start giving me loads of information, and that's fine. But, you know, we have at the moment 22 members. Out of 22 members, there's probably 14 that are actively shooting. Out of those 14, 4 of them are juniors. You know, a couple of them are retirees, but everybody else in our club, they all work, because we are actually quite a young club with ages, and they're all young professional people, very, very busy, working in the NHS. And obviously you can't keep asking the same people to help with these sort of things. So I have to say, with my club at the moment, they want to come and shoot. They want the club to run, but actually that really is it. You know, I mean, I've put us forward for the big weekend and the other big week, but it will potentially be me doing all the work because I just can't get them to. They're just not available. It's not that they don't want to, they're not available. So, you know, so it'd be really nice to hear from smaller clubs, because on these webinars, I am hearing great stories from clubs that have got 100 plus members, or even 50 plus members is bigger than my club. But I really would like to hear from those in the archery community that are tiny and literally are just surviving with being able to shoot and everything else.
Yeah, no, it's a fair question, Mandy. Thank you for raising that. And there are big weekends in lots of different shapes and sizes. Is there anyone on the call tonight that wants to respond to that?
We find when we do the have-a-goes and the tasters at the fetes and the carnivals and things, Mandy, we literally take 6 people with us. We don't take big groups. When we have the big archery weekend, yes, all the club comes together. But when we do the carnivals, the schools, or the other tasters, we tend to only take a handful of people with us. And yeah. Sorry, I've got. Gray was just saying that, you know, we also have the club, as I said in the thing, we have the club members shooting at the same time as the big archery weekend. But when we did to get over the logistics for the have-a-goes, our corporate kit was actually designed to fit in my old BMW Mini, so that you could actually fit enough stuff in a Mini and take it on your own. And I could get 4 targets in there, enough bows, the arrows. It was cozy.
Well, that's what I have to say. That is what I'm doing right now. And I've got a BMW, which literally is very small. I can get about 4 little targets in it. And it's me that's doing it and promoting everything in that area.
And that is how we started. When we opened the club 7 years ago, we had 12 members. And it grew from there because it's hard work. We all work. At that time we had nobody who was retired. Everybody had a 9 till 5 proper job as well, and we still do. It is hard work. It does come down to the same people, but it pays off in the long run.
Okay, thank you for that. Gives me hope.
But yeah, there is. It's just hard. It really is hard work, but it's got, you know, with a bit of perseverance. I mean, you start to realise that a lot of people won't volunteer because they're nervous about doing it. I'm not good enough. How am I going to do this? We take the juniors. The juniors are great for dishing out arm guards and making sure they don't wander off with them still on, because they're feisty enough to ask for them back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. It's really hard work, Mandy, but as soon as you do have a few kind of people that are really keen to help out, and like Julia was saying, it could be people that literally have only just started in archery themselves and they're still really enthusiastic. You know, they're still able to think, well, just a few months ago or a year ago, I was a beginner. I know what it's like to be you, and juniors too. Yeah, but it is hard work, and we do hear you. You're plugging away there with you know, trying to get your numbers up.
I'm plugging.
Partnering with another club as well is a really good suggestion. You know, there might be that you can ask if there's a couple of volunteers that would come and support you, kind of boost numbers.
That's great, because I mean, I have had that, which is brilliant. The issue that we have here is that 8 miles from us, we've got Sherwood Archers who've got their own field, their own clubhouse, their own everything. So we've got people, unfortunately, from Newark who join Sherwood Archers, and me being one of them. So we have to be very careful about, you know, what we do and what we share, not because I don't want to share it with Sherwood Archers, but you know, we are a small club. We only have 2 sessions a week in the summer and 1 session in the winter. That's it. And obviously it can backfire because people will come to us and then suddenly think, hang on a minute, 8 miles down the road, or 6 miles down the road, or 4 miles for somebody, they've got an archery field that they can go to. And Sherwood Archers probably has a quarter of their members are from Newark. So we just have to be cautious about that for the survival of our club.
Yeah. I wonder what if Sherwood Archers have got a summer plan, they've got a big weekend plan. It might be that they could run a big weekend at their event, and anyone interested in joining actually joins your club. You know, that there might be a partnership that you could strike up there, depending on if they're looking for new members or not. Yeah, those sorts of questions.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a great relationship with Sherwood Archers. It's just obviously, you know, if you've got someone who's paying £80 to belong to a club where they can go and shoot 7 days a week, 24 hours, and yet they pay £40 at our club and £4 subs per shoot, we have to be, we you know, I have to think about our plan and what our development is and who it is that we, you know, we can attract to our club. So we just need to be cautious about that.
Sure.
I think, Mandy, though, it's your, obviously I know exactly where you are because I also live in Newark. I think it's, Ben's got his hand up and he's made a comment as well. You know what you've got, you're not Sherwood Archers. You're never going to be Sherwood Archers, and I mean that in the nicest sense, because you've got a different outtake on life to Sherwood Archers. So I think you know, Ben's put, you know, what is your USP? You have a USP. Yeah, exactly. It's you and that crazy hair you've got. You know, it's brilliant, and your outlook on life is brilliant. And with the greatest respect, it's completely different to Sherwood Archers. You know, the facilities will attract some people, but your personality and what you're trying to deliver in Newark and the surrounding area is completely different to Sherwood Archers, as it is completely different to Eagle Bowman, as it is different to Six Towns. You know, it's about what you've got there, and you know, who knows, one day, you know, if you know, you could be as big as them, and you know, so I think. I wouldn't worry too much about it. And my club, you know, I'm a chairman of a hockey club. You know, we've got 200 members, and we do the equivalent of the big weekend in hockey. And I struggle like mad to get people to come and help. Yet, you know, they want to keep their subs, as Julia said earlier, they want to keep their subs down. They don't want to pay too much. They want, you know, where's all these new people coming into hockey? You know, who's going to be the next goalkeeper and the next umpire? They want all these things. But I know, you know, even a bigger club, I know how hard it is to keep going.
Yeah, and thanks for waiting there, Ben. Ben, do you want to come on microphone too?
Yeah, I'll be very, very quiet on that. What I was going to say, Mandy, is we're 6 years old, and so we're probably around the same age as you, and it is really hard work. One thing we had a look at when we set up was what was our USP. We are, as Aaron well knows, there's a lot of well-established clubs around where we are that have been there 30, 40 years. But what can we offer that they couldn't offer? And if you ever see us in an event, we go en masse. We are like a pack. It is like a family to people. And that's what it is. It's all for one and one for all. And that's our USP. No one's left behind with us. So it's about getting the culture of your club right. Once you've got the culture of your club right, everybody else will come on board with you. But it's just finding that key culture. What is it that defines you from everybody else? That's good. And it's really hard to write. I tried to write down for Aaron what made us successful. I can't write it down because it's down to personalities of the club.
Yeah.
What we can do, the clubs that have been around for 30, 40 years can't do. Yeah, you need a driver within your club, which is going to be you, but you need to take others on board with that journey with you, by hook or by crook.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I am working on it. We're definitely in a better place than what we were 6 months ago. But again, we're in a better place because of the work that I'm doing, and I am trying to pull in a few team players. And actually, at the moment, it's the juniors and it's their parents.
That's ideal. That is ideal because you can't beat, well, we call them wags. It's not very politically correct, but the wives, girlfriends, and mums are amazing. They're an amazing resource for us. And we'll use them. And I don't want to say use and abuse, but we'll use them for everything.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you, Mandy. And I'm just going to go to Graham and Eddie in a second, but just as we do that, I want to encourage you, if you've got a phone or a piece of paper and a pen to hand, just want to encourage you to take a couple of minutes out to think about that, because it follows on really nicely from what we were talking about there with a USP. If you are asked, and some of you will have this just on the tip of your tongue ready to go, but if you were asked about what makes your club special, I don't know if you've ever been asked to prepare what they call an elevator pitch. So say you've got a maximum of 1 minute to explain what your club is like. What are some of the things that you would mention in your elevator pitch about your club to someone who's never done archery before, or maybe someone who wants to know what's different about your club to the club down the road, or maybe not the archery club down the road, but why should I do archery over trying the hockey club down the road, Aaron's hockey club or my badminton club or whatever it is, why choose archery? What kind of experience might they get? What would you put in your special 1 minute to try and capture someone's interest and maybe sum up your USP as a club? So just encourage you to grab a piece of paper and a pen and put some bullet points down, or grab your phone and make a note in your phone. And in a minute, if you wanted to, you can come on mic and share yours. But I'm just going to go to Graham and then Eddie, who've both got their hands raised. So Graham first, and then Eddie.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, Helen. It was just something that Ben was saying to Mandy, and I was just going to add one little thing, that one of our members has just actually mentioned this to me over the past few weeks, and it's something that's been in my mind for a long time. It's a phrase that came from the Field of Dreams, and I don't know if everyone remembers it, but it's a Kevin Costner film, but it's based on true story. And if you build the field, they will come. And that's exactly what you need to do, is you build your field or you build your club and they will come. But you have to build it the right way.
Ray Liotta.
All right, Ben. Yeah. So it is. It's one of these things where, we're the phrase we're going to put on ours now is, and I need to get permission to use it, obviously, is ours is going to be the Field of Dreams, because when we build it properly, the people, we will get them there. And that's my plan for AC Delco.
Okay. Thank you, Graham. And Eddie?
Yeah, just for Mandy really, but everybody else, how many, I know there's a lot of clubs out there listening tonight, but how many clubs have you got in your area? Some of you might only have 2 of the clubs, some might have 5. I don't know, Mandy, you're in a fortunate position. We've got 17 clubs in Leicestershire and Rutland. So that's a hell of a lot of clubs to work around. I wouldn't bother what anybody else says. You concentrate on your own club, let everybody else worry about their own club. That's what I'd say to you. Whatever you're going to do, get on with it. If Sherwood Archers down the road have got their club going, do you think they're bothered about you? To be honest, they're really going to concentrate on their club and get members in their club, and that's what you should do. You're going to have to be a bit selfish, unfortunately, and that's what I'd say, just to back up what everybody else is saying. So that's me.
Thanks, Eddie.
Yeah, thank you, Eddie. I see there's some people putting their elevator pictures in the chat. Does anyone want to come on microphone and do their elevator pitch for us?
I've just quickly written down 4 words. That's it. This is what's come from mine. Me, cake, friendly, fun. And that does sum up our club.
You could explain those points, obviously, to someone who doesn't have a clue a lot better than that. But yeah, it's really good to think about what are your strengths. You know, you might be able to work on your weaknesses, but what are your strengths and really maximise those. Is there anyone else that wants to share their elevator pitch bullet points or?
Not really, Helen. It's just one point thing I want to point out. Why is every archery club in the UK advertised as friendly? Because everybody uses it. I don't, because I find it a little bit. But why friendly? What does it mean to people?
Everyone welcome. That's what it means to me. It means that anyone of any ability, and obviously you're talking to someone who's in the mental health sector. So friendly is something that people associate with warmth, caring, consideration. It's something that people strive for, you know, and you've got to think that some people right now are going through an awful lot. So for them to think of doing something totally different, like archery, is going to be a huge step. And one of the first things that people want to know, how friendly, how welcoming is that club and are the people? So that's one of the reasons why I use it, because I want everyone to know that they are welcome at our club, because we are a friendly, warm, inviting place.
That's a really good answer. And that answered it better than a friendly club. Because I use the phrase fully inclusive on all of mine rather than friendly. Because if I looked at another archery club and I could pick out any archery club, I'd find it on the website saying friendly. Whereas for me, I think the word welcoming, warm, which is what you've just said there, is far better than friendly.
Yeah.
Thank
I would
you.
obviously put that, you know, I just off the top of my head just said those 4 points, but yeah, because like you said, I know what I mean by friendly, but like you say, it's like anything, isn't it? One word can mean complete different things to somebody else, and to some people it can be a bit friendly. What's that?
The great news is, though, you've just pulled out your USP then without even probably realising it. But to get to your USP, I've got to speak to you. So how do we get over that?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Ben, and it kind of ties in with a little bit what we were saying earlier. It's almost impossible to over communicate, and I know that your clubs are all super friendly places. I know that, and I know roughly what I would be doing if I came on a visit. But I wonder if everyone knows that, and yeah, you've got a lot to sell at your clubs, so you know, go for it. And I wonder if there's anyone else there that's got anything else in their elevator pitch that they would mention. Lewis, did you want to come in there?
Most of us votes for an elevator pitch, but having said that, we've just finished doing a beginner's course, and historically we have not had a good conversion rate.
We've just gone a little bit quiet on us, Lewis. Sorry.
That's because my microphone was up there rather than down there. That's better. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, historically we have not had a good conversion rate in our beginners courses. So out of 12 beginners, we might have, I don't know, 4 would be good joining, becoming members. 2 would probably be average. We've just finished with 7, running a course for 7. That's in 3 family units. And it looks as though every single one will be joining and becoming a member of the club, and obviously therefore AGB. So to have 100% conversion rate, I don't know, is it because of COVID? Is it because of changes within the club over the last year? I don't know, but it's a pretty drastic change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's significant.
And we've got another 10 in the pipeline. So we're looking at running beginners for, doing courses for training for another 10 beginners. And if we can convert those as well. So, as I say, I don't know, is it because of COVID? And I don't know if any other clubs are finding this as well.
Anyone else got any comments there?
I think that, there's one particular point that it's great, Lewis, that you're getting the slightly more in than perhaps you did before. We've had the same thing. There's been a drop, but we did have a complete retention of beginners signing up. The problem is will this stay? If you're going to get them signed in, you've got to get them to maintain that. That's something that our club fell down with over the past 3 or 4 years. We had nothing between beginners and experienced archers. There was nothing going on in between. What I did do was, the last time the beginners course finished, instead of them doing the balloons and everything else in a small little mini competition, I dragged them into another competition that the club was doing, which was a frostbite, and they did their 252s on their first 10 yards. So they came back in, they were integrated into the club straight away. If you can retain them for the next 6 months, then you've held them. It's that 6 months that you may not get if you don't keep them up.
Yeah, I mean, it's something probably our club has, or it's something we've identified as a weakness, let's put it that way. Certainly with these 7 and any in the future. But one thing we've certainly identified is with juniors, if a junior comes and does a beginner's course on their own, their likelihood of retention, we'd be lucky 12 to 24 months. However, if they come as a family unit with either one or both parents also doing the course and joining, the retention is likely therefore to be much, much longer. Even
if they are not members, just as non-shooting members, do you keep them there to encourage the young archer, or do you just leave them? There's a lot of things you've been on the webinars with Lloyd Brown about the sense of belonging, the ABCs, autonomy, belonging, and
competency.
Competency. That's it. I can't remember the word. Got to give the teeth back to the dog, to Tyler. But the thing is, it's getting them to belong and mentoring them on. Is something that I'm trying to get our coaches to deal with at the moment, and it's like it's wading through water sometimes. But if you can get it going, and also get the archers the coaches shooting alongside them, so they become able to look at the coach as being not just a coach but being an archer as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's something our coach has identified, certainly for retention. You go from beginners, they then become a member of the club, and then coaching and advice is then more one-to-one rather than group. And it's helping to support them in their archery journey from beginner to, if they wish to go on to be experienced and shoot in tournaments, or they might just wish to attend the club for fun and a social, etc.
Well, your leisure archers are your grassroots of the archery club. Sometimes.
Yeah, and it is for us because we are not a on-target performance club. No. We are not an elite club. Yes, we have some very good archers. We have some competitive archers, but that isn't our main fundamental or the main bread and butter of our membership.
So, Lewis, what I found really useful is when we did the hub initiative with Aaron, we split archers into 3 categories. You've got the social archer, you've got the competitive archer. Where we found the most valuable membership was changing them into socially competitive archers. So they go to an event all together, not because it's a competition, but because they're all doing it together. So especially for our juniors, they've got the junior nationals come up. Now we've had, I think, 5 or 6 juniors go, right, we're doing this at distances they've never shot before. But they're going because they are all going together, not because it's a competition, but it's an event that they can all do. So it's a bonding exercise. So if you can move the social archer to a socially competitive archer, You can go out for a meal afterwards or a barbecue afterwards, but it's being together. And as one of my members put it, it's a day out with friends, just that archery gets in the way of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but our junior membership is certainly low, and it's something I've identified and really do want to develop and build up on, increase our junior membership, get them far more active and involved. And also, I think when juniors come in, they look at their peers and they look at and friendships develop also within within clubs. So if you haven't got a particularly good junior presence, the chances are they may not wish to join because they just see a bunch of adults shooting arrows and don't necessarily feel included. So it's something we are seriously working on, and that's going to take time. I reckon that, it will take time.
Junior coaches was one of our open door things. He's not a junior anymore because he's out working now, but Hayden did his juniors. He was a junior coach for ages, and that worked wonders because then they had a role model to look at.
Yeah,
can't believe Hayden's a role model, but they had a role model there for someone to look at.
Yeah, and we need more coaches as well. We need to encourage coaches. I know I've been asked to do my coaching course, which maybe one day.
Well, Lewis, Julia had the idea. If you listen to Julia, she threw all the stuff in the back of a Mini. Only needs 1 or 2 people to turn up with some kit to a local school. And then you do a taster session there and then invite them into the club.
Yeah, and again, we've got plans to do that. There's been a lot of change in our club since COVID. So probably since certainly the end of summer last year. So all of these are plans and ideas, and we're trying to put a development plan together. And it is going to take time. And 18, certainly at least 18 months, I reckon. Bear in mind, we are still a small club. I think currently we're 32 members, whereas in 2017 we were 67 members.
Yeah. And it is one step at a time, Lewis, and you're already seeing things turn around.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
As is Mandy and other people that are, you're investing in your club and you're reaping the benefits, and you will continue.
And you'll get there too, Mandy. You will get there.
Yeah, there's no stopping her.
It's dedication. That's the word for it.
I am feeling very positive. It is positive, and I just want to say to a lot of you that are on this webinar, it is down to your encouragement over the webinars and your experience and the information that you're passing on to me, such as Graham, Ben, Lewis, whoever it might be. So please take that on your chins, as you say. Oh, hello.
We'll all come up there and shoot at the club then, Mandy.
So I just want to say thank you, and I am making big steps with the club.
Yeah, and if you want support in any way, Mandy, I mean, there are loads of us here who you're more than welcome to contact at any point,
Yeah, and I do feel supported, and that's the great thing about doing these webinars, because all of you have got a huge wealth of experience which you're sharing, and it's helped. So, thank you.
That's great, and it's a great plug for the webinars there as well, Mandy. And just tying in with what Lewis was just mentioning about junior archers, if you didn't catch it, there was a Monday Natters all the way back in January, I think it was now. What juniors want. So if you want to have a little look at that recording and listen back to that, or if there's someone in your club looking to develop your juniors and that could be of help, then do have a look at that. There's the one we already mentioned about website and making sure that your search engine optimization is as high as it could be. So have a listen to that if you don't know much about SEO, or pass it on to whoever does your website management for you or social media. Also mentioned tonight was Empowering Archery, which is the probably part 1. Just start with part 1 workshop. If you've got people in your club that help at have-a-goes, beginners courses, taster sessions, or might like to think about coaching in the future, or just is a parent, or it just helps run the club, then actually Empowering Archery is for all of those people and highly recommended. It's just 2 evenings, part 1, and you can book onto a course coming up. We will be having a new webinar program come out very shortly because the current one runs out at the end of May. So have a look for that. It will be lighter because it's the summer and we want you out there shooting and running your club. We'll get going again in the autumn and the winter, but there will be a new programme out soon. If you've got people looking to be training as a coach, empowering archery is one of the modules, but there are other modules they take as well, and the session coach training modules are out as well. And there will be more club development workshops, including one on the 9th of June, which we have just rescheduled, which should have been last week. And that is about planning for your future. So there's a few of you that's very, very relevant for at the moment. But there will be others coming soon. And also there'll be one, I think, coming soon about what you have learned through lockdown, what you have learned through this period of time, and how you want to make those changes to your club, which some of you are already starting to put in place or certainly think about. So we will be looking at how to rebuild stronger, come out of this pandemic, actually a different club to the club you went in, not just back to where you were, but stronger and better than you were before. So do have an eye out for the new webinar programme. If you could pass us your feedback, if you are able to click on the link that I popped into the chat and let us know if you've got any feedback. We're always all ears as to how you found the session or ideas for new sessions. So I just want to thank you all again for your input tonight, in particular with David and for Julia as well. Thank you very much for preparing and to come on tonight and sharing some of your experiences. Thank you for everyone for taking part. If there's anything you would like to raise, I'm not rushing off and I'm not rushing you off either. I'm happy to stay on the line, but we will wrap up there officially for tonight and I'll stop the recording. We'll get the recording uploaded